This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, who is CO? Caller one. Could caller one identify yourself?
Thomas Duden.
Okay, we have a quorum. And caller two. Are you ready, Doug?
We are ready. We're recording.
It is 7 o'clock. We have a quorum, so I will call the meeting to order. First item of business is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is our new business, all pertains to road and bridge fund. I guess I will turn it over to Bill and Todd. That's all right.
Yep, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Bill Whitcomb. There's a lot to cover here tonight, a lot of different slides that I'll be showing. So I'll try to keep to the point and keep things moving along. First thing, I just kind of wanted to start out with a statement here. I know I've mentioned some of this information in the past, but I would like to provide just a brief intro, since there could be some new people listening who have not heard any of the history and why we're having this working meeting tonight. Knowing that the townships are expected to maintain and improve their roads, and that's a major responsibility per state statutes. And then when I was elected town board supervisor back in March of 19, I had asked for information that I would expect to have been available. However, what I was provided with was inaccurate and inadequate. I discovered that documentation and planning for road management for this township was severely lacking. Since that time, I've spent countless hours working to obtain and clearly document factual data. The goal being that we can use this information to help determine priorities and support budgetary decisions for all roads in our township. So tonight's meeting is to continue to build on that work that I've done and help our board to make informed decisions to improve our ability to manage and proactively plan for responsibilities for all township roads. So with that, I'd just like to begin reviewing what we have on the new business plan, which is on the agenda here, is reviewing the 2020 road bridge fund proposed budget versus actual expenditures. Now, this isn't a budget meeting, I understand, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of information here. So I've been tracking. In 2020, we had a proposal here. This is something that was shown at our annual meeting in this last March, and we had 2021 proposed on there, and I also had 2020 all set up and ready to go. So the information you'll see, it's kind of a large spreadsheet, so I'm going to be able to kind of move. I've kind of frozen the pane so that we can slide things over as we move through different sections of the spreadsheet here. But to start off with, as a disclaimer, this spreadsheet is used as a budgeting and tracking tool only. I'm asking that any referrals to the actual budget information is going to be seen in CTAS. But for this first section in the upper left-hand corner, this was kind of our road improvement project that we had this last year on 33rd and 82nd. We had budgeted about 306,000 and came in about 289 for our portions of it. We also had chip sealing that included post sweeping, crack sealing, and pothole repair. And something I wanted to just touch on too, you'll notice at the top here, these headings. This was another thing that we had talked about doing and making improvements for tracking and doing our budgeting. So we've set up an account for something that's called paved streets. Doug, could I ask you to mute anybody who's but myself who's talking? I'm getting a lot of background noise. Thank you. So you'll see the paved streets is at the heading on that one. We've got the next section right here called unpaved streets. That's the 43-121. And we also have some things that fall under both, which is basically the ditch mowing, roadside brushing, and motor fuels, those types of things, along with sign replacement. So to go back here and look at where we're at with our chip sealing, post sweeping, crack filling, and any pothole repair, the budgeted amounts were in green, our actuals were down below. So I've also, if people want to look at and find out more information about this, I've got some other notes for future projects when it comes to post sweeping or crack sealing, those types of things. So that was the information for the road improvements there. If you look a little bit as we go down further, you'll see this chart kind of starts moving to the right. So everything that you see here now in yellow, those were all the areas that we had done this last year with crack filling and chip sealing. And then of course, the information that shows up here a little bit further down is when there was that error made by the contractor that so we're tracking that too with a little note here explaining what was done with that situation and the decisions that were made. And as we move down further, we also have our pothole repair. Some of these are on Brickton Baptist Church Road. You'll see over here on the left-hand side, if there's some major work that's being done, a lot of times I'll put in the latitude and longitude where we had a muskrats in the roadbed. So that shows up there. And there's other patching. So that was for the pavement portion. We'll move on to the unpaved streets, the gravel. If you guys remember from last year, the discussion was that we wanted to maintain a plan where we're going to be doing about 1/3 of the township. We started in the southeast corner. This year we're going to do the north half, and the next fall, the following year, we'll be doing the southwest corner. And that I'll be showing more of that information a little bit later here. So meeting with our grader operator, these were kind of where things came in last year. We had planned 60,000 for gravel. That was on the very high end, and I've got a little note here. You can't see the whole note, but we had proposed a little extra just in case that project on 82nd and 33rd came in too high. I wanted to do a good job of graveling that section because it had been greatly neglected for years. I think there's only like 175 yards put on those roads since 2012. So that's where some of that money was going to go, but we ended up not needing that. So we put $35,000 worth of gravel into the roads that are listed on the left-hand side. Again, the plan was to do the southwest corner, but we just couldn't just jump into that plan right away because we kind of had to see where things were at, and I worked with Steve Haas on that. So we did some little kind of areas that may have been a little lacking on gravel. So we kind of hit up some different areas of the township that were not just in the southeast corner. We also had some dust control that we provided. Dust control was applied to 19th Avenue, and I'll explain that. I'll show you a map of that a little bit later. We also did Sunset Drive, and we did a test strip over on 35th. And that test strip was compared to 17th Street. And I'll get into that a little bit more later also. I'll be jumping back and forth a little bit so everybody's aware as to kind of what happened and how things happen there. Here we get into our grading contracted, how many hours. We've got about 142 hours of contracted labor, mostly with the packer, a little bit of time without the packer that was primarily fixing frost boil repairs. And then as we move out of the unpaved streets and into both the paved and unpaved, then we move into our summer mowing, our late fall mowing, roadside brush cutting. Any fuel consumption, this fuel consumption is just based on how many hours that the tractor was running, and that's based on some data that I pulled off the web, and just to get, again, it's for budgeting purposes only. So that's where we're at on that. We had tree trimming, miscellaneous equipment on maintenance. Paperwork would be miscellaneous things, again, on this line right here, has to deal with, you know, changing out equipment, checking oil, checking the air in the tires and those types of things. We also did sign repair this year. Our sign repair and replacement, we did some sign removals this fall for a total of $731 on that end of things. I've got a little spreadsheet here that shows what our savings was. So the cost of sign removals this year, as I'd mentioned, for labor, and you'll see for tractor usage, mileage, anything like that, was about $837. I ran a quick comparison based off of the old sign contract that was let back in 2008, 2009. So if you were to compare those unit prices and you were to increase that, so it says right here in 2009 contractor bid amount would have been $5,000. But if you bring that to 2020, adjusted for inflation, it would have been about $6,200. So we were able to save the township about $5,400 by doing that sign removal in-house. Okay. So we got then the next item of business there that we talk about, that's not item of business, but it's the next item on the list, is our snow removal. And we don't have all that information yet. So that's what we have for 2020. I don't want to just fly through that. Are there any questions? And maybe before I go too far, you know, I'd sent a lot of this information out several months in a row to the supervisors in emails. I'm hoping that people have had a chance to at least look through some of this. I sent it all out again on Sunday afternoon. So I'm just wondering, has everybody had a chance to look at this information? Because I don't want to spend a ton of time on these next items necessarily, but if you have questions, please ask now. I'll give you a few seconds to think about some things there. Okay.
I guess I want to clarify something. We budgeted 50,000 for gravel.
60,000, yes.
60,000, and we actually only used 35.
Correct.
Okay.
And like I had mentioned, Gene, I think when we sat down and did the budget that year, we weren't sure where 82nd and 33rd bids were going to come in. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough kind of sitting there for gravel set aside.
Right.
So and we really didn't need that since we're going to break it up into thirds. And it seems to be doing really, that 30,000 mark actually is not seems to be working pretty well so far. But you know, we've only got 1 year's worth of real data, because the data that I got that we did have, I had to basically go back and look at old invoices, and some of this was, you know, it was placed on 65th. Well, 65th, you know, there might be 3 sections of 65th, so I really didn't know where that was actually going, you know, back in 2016, 17, and 18. So I'm still trying to pull together some of this data so we have a better feel for, where to go next and the types of things that we need to do. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next. So that was the 2020 proposal. We have the actuals that I just showed you. Another item that I wanted to show you was the gravel totals. So if you want to look at these gravel totals, this is highlighted in different colors. The blue is what we're going to do in what was done in 2020. The pink was what was done in 2021, and then in 2022 is where we plan on doing the yellow ones. So without really going into a lot of depth, all that information is here. You'll see at the top in column H is 2016 totals, 2017, 2018. And again, I don't expect everybody to be able to see that necessarily, but it's the information's available. So if you want to take a closer look at it, we can look at that. Another thing that I was tracking here was how many times our grader, again, we had really no understanding of where the grading was taking place throughout the township. We were trying to limit the grading to when it's needed versus just going out just to go out. So I've been marking down how many times each of the roads is getting graded, and I actually have that on a map right here. So this map shows, if you look on the right hand side over here where it says all these different dates, I get a map from the contractor. I have not received a map for November and December yet. I think he may have hit one road in early December, maybe not though. So I'm missing probably 3 other times that he was over here. So to explain this a little bit, and maybe what I'll do is I'll explain right in the middle. You'll see. Can you guys see my cursor if I'm moving the cursor on the screen or not?
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay, so the cursor is on July 14th. So what we did is we worked with the contractor, and that's when we did some prep for chloride, and our test strip for the chloride was right over here on 35th. Okay, so up until July, we had graded that road 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and then we applied the chloride. And like I said, I don't have anything on there now, but I believe he's hit it twice since we chlorided it. Okay, our other test strip, which had similar ADTs, was right down here on 17th. That road, again, if you look at the key to the right, after we chlorided it, was way down, was right here. So that one has been graded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think 7, 8. I think eight total times since the chloride was applied to the other road at the same time. So what we're finding is, and what we'd hoped is that, we're finding out from that manual that I sent out about dust control, that we're basically grading the roads that are chlorided basically 2 times versus 8 times where we don't have chloride. So all this information is here for you to look at also. I hope to have the maps updated a little bit later, but that's where we're at in regards to
Pop quiz, Bill.
Sure.
The chloride that you're pouring on the road, I'm just thinking from an environmental aspect, is there any environmental concerns with it? Hitting vegetation, killing vegetation off, anything like that?
What I've seen, let's see here, the studies, let me see, I'm trying to find where this document is. I'm just wondering, has everybody had a chance to go through the Federal Highway Administration's dust control that I'd sent out? So I had asked that if people pay particular, this is 153 pages document.
I read every word, Bill.
Good, you got it memorized. So if you go in there and read that, you'll find a lot of information about it. It's a product that has been utilized. Here's the chlorides we're talking about right here, section 77, page 77, chlorides. These are the most commonly used products across the country. They fall into 3 categories: calcium chloride or dry liquid form, magnesium chloride, and that's the one that we utilize as the magnesium chloride, generally in liquid form, and sodium chloride, which is road salt. They are hygroscopic products, which in the simplest terms means they draw moisture from the air. They are reasonably and simple to use and relatively easy to apply. They can be applied to the surface as dust control treatment and can be mixed with a portion of gravel layer to help provide stability. As it comes to, I mean, each one of these has, when we get this applied, there is some documentation from the supplier that has all that information for you to look at, Thomas. I can't answer either way.
Hey, Bill?
I don't think that. Yes, sir.
Todd here. It's got
Yeah.
a little quick sentence here about the vegetation deal. It says sometimes when it rains on a freshly treated surface, the chloride can, wash off a little bit. It says it has a temporary harm on grass in adjacent areas, and that's all it says. So I think it's pretty
Okay.
simple, actually.
All right. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Thomas?
Yeah, I was just looking for a general aspect of it. So
Sure. Okay. So back to where are we at here? This degrading. Okay. So this is where again where the gravel was applied in 2020. So now on to the township road priorities for 2021 with regard to gravel, dust, and crack filling and chip sealing. So we'll move on to that. Again, back to this spreadsheet, but we're going to move to the 2020 versus 2021, I should say, because this we're talking about for next year. And Gene and I met with Todd this last week to go over some kind of maybe some prioritizing of some of these roads here. And before I get too far here, I need to go back to my make sure I'm not getting out of order, out of sequence with what needs to be shown. Okay. So now we're gonna go right to the dust control portion before I get to the other ones, because I don't want to lose my place, if you don't mind. So this year, what we're planning for 2021 are these roads that you're seeing here on the left-hand side. Again, it's mostly the north section. When it comes right down to it, though, I'll be meeting with Steve Haas, if it's something that we choose to go with for a contracting again this year. And we'll kind of get actual numbers on where because he'll have a better feel for it after we get the spring melt and he grades the roads a couple of times. But this at this point is the plan for 2020. And then we also have, I don't have a map for these necessarily, but one other thing that you can see that I've started adding to all these is the ADT in this column P. The red numbers are basically, I've got a little note here. It says red text in these column indicates a calculated ADT based on other roads that are similar. The black text in these columns are actual road meter counts. And for a lot of these gravel roads up on the north end, they're pretty low counts. So I didn't take the meters up there to read those. But everything is based on how many homes are out there and the amount of road through traffic and those types of things. It's pretty consistent across the township.
Hey, Bill, what are you typically adding for gravel? It looks like 1.5, 2, or what?
Yeah, some of it is, and then you'll notice I've got a loose volume on here too that's calculated. That's kind of messed me up last year. So the loose volume is figured in there, and we're not having to go necessarily the full length of the road. There's areas that are holding up really well as opposed to others. So this is just, again, for calculation purposes, the actual loads that we're putting on the I got some rows hidden here, but you can't see it. Let me unhide some, otherwise it gets too wide. So we're talking 17-yard loads here. So for 67th east of the river, we're talking 11 loads, 7, 6, 5, 16 on 65th. And these are just kind of, again, going off what I've been seeing out there when I'm doing the road tours and those types of things. So these could fluctuate quite a bit between now and, June. But the dollar amount we're trying to hold to is about that $30,000 mark. But yes, you're right. Over to the left is kind of what the thickness is, a compacted thickness. So that's kind of gives you kind of where we're at on that. And of course, he's mixing that in with the existing gravel a little bit there.
Yep.
Okay. So those are the areas we're looking at for graveling this year. That one's pretty straightforward. The next one's a little more tricky here, and this comes down to, hang on, cough there. So this is something I'd mailed out, a month or two back. This was concerning our traffic counts, and for quite a long time, I was really frustrated with, okay, how do we make some of these decisions, and something to try to keep consistent with. I know I had several discussions with people when I first got on the board about everybody thought their road was busier than somebody else's. And you don't know that until you actually get in some traffic counts. So I kind of came up with what I call a scoring matrix for dust control and potentially even pavement criteria. I'll just read this here. It says, in order to make sound and unbiased decision, it's best to use criteria that is measurable and definable. Taking action based on historical, arbitrary decisions is something that needs to be avoided. In order to remain impartial, I've developed a scoring matrix, which you can see below. I recommend adoption of this matrix for helping in the decision-making associated with all township roads. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain kind of what I've done here. I don't expect you to necessarily be able to wrap your mind about it right now around it tonight necessarily, but just to kind of give you an overview. I spend a lot of hours and different weeks, just things that pop into my mind, looking at different road criteria that they talk about with dust control and those types of things. So the first portion of the matrix has to do with ADT. That's our average daily traffic. And I've given each one some points. And as you see, it doubles 1 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 9. And then from there on, it's just, I just added 4 points as we go up here. So that's a pretty straightforward number. The next one is housing density. And the definition over here on the side here is housing density is, for this criteria, is defined as the number of residents with direct access to the subject road. Example, if the road is 2,800 feet long, which is a mile, and 5 residents are accessing it, that's the 5,280 divided by 5. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit more for you to see that. Special consideration may be given to roads that only have homes or businesses on one side of the road, like a highway with frontage or wetlands or lakes on one side of the road. The other definition is based on affected homes. Affected homes for this criteria is defined as the number of homes affected by dust and that the affected area is any occupied dwelling within 300 feet of the subject road's traveled surface, plus any residents with direct access to the road. For example, there may only be 6 homes with direct access, but 5 other homes may be within 300 feet of the traveled surface. So we're showing that there's 11 affected homes, and I've allotted a scoring there, and then some more scoring for pass-through traffic or a dead end. Now you'll notice with the housing density one, I've actually added some negative numbers because we might have a road out there that has 130 ADT, but there's basically no homes on it, or maybe one or two. So just because there's a high ADT, we don't want that affecting or skewing the points. So what I've kind of come up with, and again, this is all for discussion, we don't have to stick to this, but for the dust control criteria, I'm recommending that the total should be greater than or equal to 15 points, but there's got to be positive points in 3 of the 4 categories. Again, that kind of goes back to what I'm talking about down here. You might have a section of road that only has 2 homes on it, and it's, you know, to put dust on a dust control on something like that, we're not getting as a township the full benefit of a dust control because there's really not any homes that are being affected. It's mostly just dust and going into the fields or that type of thing. So again, I spent a little extra time explaining that. There's some other criteria down below. This right in the middle says there may be some special circumstances for deviating from the matrix and guidelines. A best practice when deviating from the matrix is to write down and explain with reasons for the particular or special circumstance. This is for future reference. And again, the reason, just hopefully you'll understand that this is just to hopefully keep things consistent as we move through the years. So, you know, we don't get off course, or I mean, everybody's welcome to change whatever they want, but you know, when I first came on, there was really no guidance on this. So I'm just trying to establish something here. And then there's other criteria down here. And then at the very bottom, again, recommendation 0 to 14, we should just keep the gravel, remain the road as a gravel only. 15 to 35, we could have gravel with chloride, and anything over 35, we should strongly consider paving that road. And any roads that might be paved now, if they drop below 25, maybe consider just reclaiming those roads. Again, this is all up for discussion. These are just some ideas that I had floating around that we can talk about again at a later date. So hopefully you'll take some time and look at that. So with that explanation, I'd like to get back to what we talked about here with where we're talking about dust control. Well, maybe before I go on, is there some questions, or maybe you want some more explanation as to how that kind of this matrix works? Because what I'll be explaining next will kind of give you a really good idea as to how it's working out. Let's see here. Let me get back to my other screen. So these are the roads that we're looking at. And I've got a map here. I'll pull that up and you guys will have a better idea as to kind of what I'm thinking here. So the first one talks about, this is where within the township, you'll see this site over here in section 19 was our test strip that we did. We also had chloride on this little cul-de-sac and this cul-de-sac down here. So what I'm proposing, and we'll get to these in just a second here, is 50th Street up here. You'll notice the whole thing is yellow. The east end is circled in orange. Another location is north end of Brickton Road, and other locations are 17th Street and the south end of 107th. And the reason I've got these, I'll just mention right now why this is orange. In talking with our grader operator, and you guys saw how many times the grader was out there. There's a lot of trips over to this section of the township. Just, I think part of it is there's sandy soils. It just seems to be drier over there. The gravel just kind of seems to wear out quicker.
A lot of washboarding over there too on that street, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, I mean, the criteria that I'd set up here doesn't make it even close, because this whole section, there's no homes on it at all. And everything to the north, there's only one home on this. So, but what Steve had said, he says, I'm going to be running over there anyways to do these. And I'll show you the savings in just a minute here, but this is what we're talking about for 2021. So keep this in mind, and I'll show you kind of where we're at. So on 50th with the dust control, this would be the cost for doing that section of road, the west half and the east half. And I'm going to show you the traffic counts for that area. So that was site E, and all this information was sent out to you guys, so it was there. But I'm not expecting you to be able to follow it necessarily, because I haven't given any direction on it. So this was site E. So I took readings back on July 25th, 26th, 27th, 29th, and 30th, and this is the average. The ADT for the east end was 42. This is flipped for just the way it worked out. So the east end, number 1, scored as 7. The west end scored higher at 20. Now, how this matrix works is there's 42 cars, so you just click on that 2, you hold your control button down. I know that the housing density, because there's 8 homes on that, I wrote the number next to it, is 607. And then affected homes, there's 5, so that falls in that category, and it's a through street. So all those added up, when you look at your score, as it's adding on a spreadsheet, you can see over the side that totaled 7. Now, if you look at the west end, number 2, that was a 9, a 0, a 7, and a 14. That came out as 20. So that, according to the matrix that I had set up, that west end meets the criteria for dust control. The east end really doesn't, but the whole mile as a whole does. That's kind of why I set it up. Where's my map again here? Sorry guys, this is a lot to keep track of. That's why I had the east end circled in orange. So if you were to separate the road into 2 halves, the east end really doesn't meet the criteria, but the road as a whole does. And again, back down to the west side, this east end of 17th does not meet it at all, even if you took the whole road into account, and neither does the north end of 107th. But the west half definitely does, and I'll show you that now next. I got to go to my spreadsheet. So 17th, that would be site P and site 1. So site P, you'll notice I placed, this is where the road meter was placed, just about let's see, was placed 780 feet south of Highway 95. And that came in at 62 ADT and with a score of 12. But the other side down here, which I took a reading at a later plate, had 59. So when you add those together, we're at 121 for this little stretch of road right here that I had highlighted in orange on the other map. So this one actually has a score of, I think it was, here's the score right here, 27. It's this number right here. So that's why I was recommending that we do dust control on that western portion of 17. Right at that house. That house is he's getting hit from both sides. So he's got 121 cars driving past his place every day. So these are kind of some of the things that I'm going to be looking for at the end of the meeting. Do we just go with the areas that have the yellow or do we go with the areas that have the yellow and the orange also circled? So just kind of be considering that. The totals for that are all right here, 1,700. And when we talked about dust control at another time, we talked about the savings and what there is, and that's what I'm going to get to next. So if we look at what happened in 2020 actuals, I'm going to move over to this. This was the test strip that I did with the chloride versus just gravel. Okay, so we did 17th. We added a lot of gravel because it's just like Thomas said, it's always washboard. That gravel wears out really quick. It's dry, and the fines get kind of blown out of there. So they also had placed, I'm not going to go back to it, but they'd put gravel on there in 2017, quite a lot actually, about the same amount. Maybe it was about $7,000 versus 10, but we put $10,000 just into that stretch of road this last year because we were getting calls on it constantly, and you saw we probably graded it 10 or 12 times. That same area that we did our test strip, these two lines, that was a half mile. Basically, it was a half mile east and west. The full mile basically is right there. So we had to apply a little bit of gravel. If you look across here, because we have to prep the surface. So we put a little bit of fresh gravel down so that it has some fines in there. Then we applied the dust control chloride. And if you take that into account, we spent $10,000 on fresh gravel, or $7,000 with chloride. So it was $3,000 less. Now, there's other things to take into account, and that is on 17th, the extra grading, we graded it 8 extra times. And each year that's approximately $1,000 more of grading. And that's just based off of how much time it takes for them to grade over there and those types of things. 35th with the chloride, we'll need to apply it each year. So that's going to be approximately 3,000. So if you look at over a 3-year period of time, it's basically a wash between the two of them. And what you're gaining from the chloride is kind of what's talked about in those books, is just get a greater driver satisfaction, less wear and tear on vehicles. So there's a lot of things that are really hard to quantify in as far as financially, but people that live on those roads, anybody who drives on those roads or through that, there's a added benefit to that. So for basically a wash, they're the same. That's why we're heading in that. I'd like to head in that direction. Any other comments on the whole dust control? And again, some of this stuff I'm talking about,
No.
I mean, I sent this out to the supervisors so you guys could look at it. So I'm hoping you're doing some of the studying on your own and not just getting the information from me. I'm hoping you're going to be students of this kind of stuff, because it's one of the main things that the township's supposed to be doing, is looking at the roads.
No, on your call, you're saying that you were using the Greenbush Township road meter. That was before we bought our own?
No, this was all these that were done in 2020 but we're utilizing the 2 road meters that we purchased early last spring. So I did 35 different locations throughout the township.
Okay, you got sites 1 to 3 were done using Greenbush Township road meter. I was wondering.
Yes.
That was before we purchased ours?
Yes.
Okay, because we bought ours in about May, June?
Something like that. Let me see.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I just noticed it up here and I thought, well, we're not still using theirs, are we?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this was May. Looks like I did those at the top. May. Yep. And then we got ours, must have been late July, because then I started using ours on July 2nd.
Okay.
So again, there's multiple areas here. Again, I did paved areas as well as gravel areas. And the reason we did the paved area was so that, you know, when I'm meeting with Todd and the rest of the group here, we can have a better idea as to, because we've got several roads that are needing attention, and the ADT may be our only real guide on some of these that are kind of coming in looking and scoring about the same. So you're welcome to look through that. I can give you the information on all these. I've kept each photo of when I took the pictures of the road meters. Each photo is marked with a time, date, location, so you can actually see right where I was standing when I took the picture. So we got all that information if people need it. I know that's way overkill, but I have it. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So be thinking about that, how we want to handle this with the dust. If you guys could, I'd like an answer. Maybe by the end of the meeting, we can have more questions on that. One other thing I just kind of wanted to throw out there so that everybody's aware, I've updated a map. This is a map that I've been working on with Todd throughout. Oh, looks like I messed up this. I used the wrong one, Todd. I don't have the gravel in purple dashed on. I didn't use that one. I'll have to, maybe I can send this to you and you can put a purple dashed one on this map that I got a little premature and started adding ADT on all these. So for those of you who want to look at the ADT map, everything that's in red, again, it is a calculated number. Shoot, I can't. It says over here, red is a calculated figure based on roads of the similar roads. Black are the ones taken from the actual road meter count. So you want to look at that a little bit closer. All that information's there. Here's the ADTs that we talked about. So that's more for your information. Now we're going to get into 2021 proposals for chip sealing and crack filling. Oops, let me see here. That's up top. Again, this spreadsheet went out to everybody back a few days ago. I've sent this out several times. So, here we're looking at the orange and the blue section. And before I get to that, I'll show you the maps so you kind of have a feel for where I'm talking about here. So this is the road map that denotes areas for proposed crack filling. And it's always recommended that you do the crack filling along with the chip sealing. And I want to kind of get ahead of it. So there's more crack fill areas here than what I'm going to show on the next map, which is just the chip sealing. So if you could mute those again for me, Gene. There's several, or not Gene, but Doug. I'm getting a lot of background. Doug, are you there?
Say, Bill, quick question
Thank
about
you.
this map here.
Yeah.
Baptist Church Road. I know you've got just the front highlighted going towards like Pikes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't part of that road owned by the city? Because I know there's two different weight ratings on that road.
Yeah, the southeasterly, the east-west road, a quarter, well, the east half on the south side is city, yes. And actually, well, I'll get to that in just a second here, but even that south end of that little squiggly Baptist Church Road, there's 400 feet or approximately the city should pay for too. And I'll show you that on the spreadsheet. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just couldn't remember where what location it was. I just thought it was a joint party,
Yeah.
property ownership, whatever.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff we'll be working on with road agreements. So if you look at, here we are. So here's all the red ones. Oops. So everything that's in red is crack filled, and this one is where we're going to be chip sealing. So we're going to chip seal that road, and we're going to chip seal Audubon, and then chip seal Afton and Annex, I think it's called Annex Road. And if you guys remember from last year when we kind of went through some of the road stuff, the idea is that I want to put all the pavement on a 7-year rotation, because basically chip sealing should be done. And Todd, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but everything that we've been talking about and looking at, it's about every 7 years is when things should be chip sealed, just to maintain the integrity of the road so that it lasts longer. So that's the idea, is that I'm basically taking the total length of road that we have for bituminous and dividing that by 7. And that's the direction I'm going to continue to move as we move through the process of getting these roads back to where they need to be. Last year we got a little ahead of ourselves only because of that mess up that happened with the contractor. So it kind of we're a little ahead of where we needed to be. So I'm not doing quite as much this year.
Just a
And then
question.
yes.
The blue is what we did this last year?
No, the blue, the like the baby blue, those are all the areas, that's bituminous. That's all of the roads in the township that have bituminous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not showing what we did back in 2020 because we had talked about that at another meeting. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking at what our proposed projects in road for 2021 coming up. So these are the roads that we're looking at. I'm going to go back and forth between the maps, but these gold, we got to do the crack filling first. So you'll see I got 33rd from the Baptist Church, or from Bethel Reform. That one really could use some crack filling. We might not do any, I don't have any list on the list right now for chip sealing, but that one, so these are all crack fill projects. Everything over here in the southwest or southeast. And then we'll come in behind, and then they'll do just the gold ones for the chip sealing. And then that purple one, since we're working with Todd on trying to get this LRIP, Local Road Improvement Program, with the state. We're focusing on that for out on 50th. We had money set aside to do a project, and the next one that we talked about, I think Gene, you were part of that road ride, is Brickton Road. And the reason Brickton kind of came to the top, I'll show you over here, is well, for one thing, it fits right in that budget amount of 60,000 that we had set aside there. I'm coming in with I've got a couple bids or quotes kind of already, and they're pretty close to that. Depending on what you guys say tonight on which route we're going to go, then I'll have Todd pull together the specs kind of for that project. It should be pretty straightforward. It's not going to be too much, but the reason that one kind of came to the top is because it's an existing US 169 that has concrete underneath it. The other roads that are kind of in the same boat are probably ones that are going to need to be reclaimed and paved in the next couple of years. And we really can't do that on Brickton Road unless it's going to be really expensive, because we'd have to get all that. I just don't want that concrete below failing and having more problems that we really don't want to have to deal with. So if we can keep that road intact, because there was a lot of spalling on it. The last 2 years, I must say there's probably 20 some little skim patches that had to be put in there because it's just popping out everywhere. So that's kind of the plan for this year. for an overlay at least. So this is kind of where everything came in with for those maps we just looked at. We got Baptist Church Road, the north portion, the south portion down past Pike's old auction place. We got Afton Road, Annex Road, and Audubon. And this is the totals for all those. Another one, I'm not really quite sure, it didn't show up on the map, but Bluff Road and 36th Street up north of the paving project we just did this last summer. It's got pretty low volumes, but it's just really falling apart. It's got alligator cracking and rutting, and I'd really like to get in there and at least put a good seal coat on it to keep the water out of it, because I personally don't see us going in there for quite a long time because of the low volumes, and we got other roads that are kind of higher priority that have a lot more volume on it. You'll see that the ADT on this is 30-ish. So, and then here's where these other ones show up for crack filling. You got 33rd Street, which is again by Bethel, 54th. This is all over in the southeast corner of the township, and then Aloe and 18th, which again were these over here in the red, far eastern. So that's kind of the plan for seal coat. I mean, I keep saying seal coat, chip seal and crack fill. What else did I have here?
Okay, back up. Back
Sure.
up to that, what you just,
Oh, this here?
okay, you got Baptist Church Road at 111,000 for reclaim and pave.
Where? Oh, no. That was just, those were just some of the, what?
Okay, under improvements,
Okay, yes.
yeah, right there.
So Gene, these were just some of the other roads that are kind of high on the list. This is the only one that's showing up above here, Gene, is this one right here, the 60,000 for Brickton Road. So I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to touch on that. So Baptist Church Road, this is the area that Thomas was talking about. So I kind of came up with the estimate for basically doing that whole east-west chunk. It's about $150,000, of which we have 75%. And then if I scroll way over to the edge here, I've got the portion that the city would have. So the portion would have 25%, which is about $37,000.
You realize now with the change in city administrator and mayor and council that it may be a little more difficult to work with the city until they get their legs underneath them again.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, this one, if you look way over here on the left, way over here on column C, I really don't have, and I got to talk to Todd about this too, because we're just kind of taking it 1 year at a time, and we got to see where 50th comes in. But I don't even have this one really on the list until like 2028. Okay. You know, we might have to do we might have to do a chip seal or something to hold it over for a while. But yeah, so this is kind of the years where I'm thinking about some of this stuff. But I just wanted to throw it out, just have it shown there so you guys could see kind of where we're talking on some of the costs on these. And again, these are just kind of a shot from, I've got a quantities calculator that I have over here that I've utilized for a lot of the calculations, just based on estimates I've been getting from other contractors and those types of things. So again, they're not quantities based. They're basically like an LW, a length, width, depth, and similar type projects. So yeah, even this 60,000 isn't a true bid yet at this point.
And just to help some of the people who haven't been involved in this, The reason that we're not seeing anything on 50th right now is because of our application to the state for state help, and that would not happen in 2021. It would be a possible 2022. That's why
Yeah,
we're not discussing that tonight.
yeah, and possibly, I think when I talked to Mr. Breezy from the state, even 23, they could fund it out. And I don't know if Todd's been in contact with the engineer up at Mille Lacs County, but I have. He's already taken a look at it, and I'm going to be reaching out to him again next week to try to set up a time when maybe Todd and I can get together and meet with him. He was very, I've met with him in the past. He was very thankful that we're reaching out to him now instead of, I think the deadline is March 3rd. So I think I just got the feeling that a lot of times people want to do this like a week before the submittals due or something like that. So he was happy that we're reaching out to him back in December. So
Yeah, Bill.
that's a good thing.
Todd
Yeah.
here. Yeah, the other townships I work in are doing the same thing. So the state may get a gluttony of applications.
Darn. You're not
Everybody
helping them, are you?
jumping on the bandwagon here, it seems. So,
You're not helping them, are you?
well, doing what I'm asked to do.
Oh, drag your feet.
Right.
No.
So,
Okay.
yeah, everybody noticed it.
Shoot. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, you gotta try.
They'll just prioritize it. Exactly. You just got to try. So let's see, where are we at here? I need to look at the agenda. Any other questions before I move on? We're really close to having this basically all wrapped up. Again, so I've kind of got this spreadsheet all filled out all the way over to even our ditch mowing based off of what we've got last year. You'll see these hours and everything. I've got a lot of little just comments. So this will be pretty helpful, I'm hoping, for when we start having our budget meeting. So we have some good, and then like I mentioned earlier, we've got the roads now all broken out into different funding sources, paved street versus gravel versus both. Anything, again, any questions or comments?
Well, I think
Okay.
you did a hell of a job, Bill.
Excuse me? I'm sorry. You broke up there. Oh, thank you. So we will continue to work on this. Again, this is something this was just a working meeting. I need to get some answers on these things when it comes to so before the end of the meeting, I'd really like to hear from folks on what they want to do. If they want to, is everybody okay with the gravel plans? We're looking for a decision on the areas to apply dust control. Is everybody okay with the chip sealing? And is everybody okay with the overlay plans? So just be thinking about that, and we'll move on to the next agenda item. And that was review and approval of brush and tree trimming in town right-of-ways. Basically, we already talked about this at a prior meeting, but we're needing to, might not be a bad idea. I talked to Jason about it, about sending out notices, and we can work with Jason on how to send that notice out. All we might need to do is just put it on our website, because we're not really focused on one area. It's going to just be as we're driving around this spring and we start seeing things, we're going to hit those areas. And there is one area over on Ridge Drive, I believe it is, that's got some at least one. I went and measured it the other day. It's about 6 3/4 inches diameter. So and Jason said it's not a problem. But we have to treat any trees 6 inches or larger are treated kind of special. But it's probably within, I couldn't see the edge of pavement, but from this summer, if I remember right, it was about 1 foot or 2 from the edge of pavement. And if it starts getting any bigger, it's going to start causing the road to heave and those types of things. So we want to take care of it. So
Now, stuff like that, Bill, are you looking at getting an excavator, tearing out the stump, or are you looking at just knocking the tree itself down, cutting it?
yep, just taking it off right at the ground. There's probably 10 trees about the size of your forearm and smaller ones. There's probably a dozen or so. There might be another one that's close to 6 inches, but yeah,
Reason I asked, we took one down on 45th. Oh, what was it, 2 years ago, Gene, that dead one?
Yeah.
Coming up by Bernie Westlow's. And I mean, there's a huge stump left there. I mean, it's a 2 foot plus stump that was just there. I ended up taking an excavator and just trying to knock the stump down, because if a car come off, landed it, you were going to kill somebody. It just kind of sat out there in the middle of nowhere.
okay, yeah, this one, Thomas, it's just getting to the point where we'll just take it off at the ground, and it's a paved road, so I'm more concerned about it heaving and causing us more problems in the road bed than anything. So I just kind of wanted to get that cleared out of there. So we'll need to do that, and then we also have to review and approval of maybe any brush or tree trimming quotes, possible resolution authorizing a contract with an interested officer. Thomas, I know last spring, I think it was, or summer, you were able to pull together some quotes from local rental companies. And
I did email that to everybody here since we've been on the meeting.
okay, I haven't looked at it yet. So maybe do you want me to see if I can pull that up on my screen so everybody can look at it? Because we're looking at a possible resolution authorizing a contract with an interested officer, since
We have to do that anyway for all town board members and planning commission members anyway.
okay.
That should be an annual resolution.
So this is, I don't know if Jason sent that to Gene or not, or to Doug or not, but that's something that we should probably vote on tonight.
No,
Do we have to or not?
I think we'd have to wait till the regular meeting.
Well, okay, because I asked Jason about it, and he says, yes, we can. He says it's got to be a unanimous vote for anybody who's present. I said, can we do it with only 4 people present? And he says, yes, but it has to be unanimous. I just didn't want to wait too long, because there might be some times where we can get out there. Thomas might be able to get out there, and we're going to lose more time on this. But it's up to you.
I'm gonna, regardless, I'll abstain from the vote. So
Sure.
just a conflict of interest.
Absolutely. I can't get that rental rates to open up for some reason.
I'll screenshot it and try it that way.
I'm working in Excel right here. I wonder why it's not opening. So Gene, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure the way the wording is on the agenda, if we can legally approve a resolution tonight.
I'll read what it says. It says review and approval of brush and tree trimming quotes, and if necessary, a resolution authorizing a contract with an interested officer. That's what was posted. And
okay.
but if you don't feel comfortable with it, I mean, Jason, he thought he might jump on tonight when he's done with his other meeting, but I can ask him or see where he's at.
Yeah, we should have a wording on it if we're going to vote on a resolution.
Okay. And
I mean, I feel a little uncomfortable with not having a
resolution in front of you. That makes sense.
Resolution, right? If there is one, if Doug got one, I guess I could read it and we could vote on it, but
Doug, are
I
you
don't want
able
us
to
to have,
find?
I don't want us to be questioned by somebody who thinks that we bypassed
Oh, absolutely. No, I get it.
regulations.
I just thought we had it in front of us. That's why that's why it was on the agenda.
I haven't gotten a resolution.
Excuse me?
Repeat.
I have, excuse me, I have not received a draft, draft resolution, like somebody
Okay.
showed.
Yeah, I think Gene's the only one there that could put his hands around your neck, right?
No, we're in other rooms.
I locked him in next room.
Okay. Well, it looks
Yes.
like we'll have to hold off on this. I suppose we can
Right.
address it at the 19th, the meeting on the 19th if need be.
Right. Just to add to this discussion, we are solvent as a township. Our final numbers look fairly good. We should be able to move forward with some of these road projects without having to jeopardize any of our futures.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, Gene, you bring up there, because again, this is not based off of CTAS yet, because I haven't looked at it, but here's the number that it appears we have remaining from last year's budget. We got about $26,000 remaining from just this last year. So,
And to add to that, our cash control statement as of today, we appear to have an ending balance of total township revenue or total assets of $459,000. So we have not depleted our resources too drastically. I asked Doug for that number before the meeting, just so we had some idea of what we can do for road work this year.
okay.
Our road and bridge fund is $145,000.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we're in pretty substantially good shape.
Okay. There's the information in front of you just from Thomas, but we'll have this all pulled together for the meeting on the 19th then. So what'd you say that where are we at, Gene?
We have for road and bridge, ending balance for period now, as of today, $145,460 in the road and bridge fund.
What do we have in maybe it doesn't matter about the other one because we're not talking
The
about
general
that,
fund is still 177,166. And for the 2021 levy, we have budgeted, or we have levied 100,000 for general fund, and I'd have to look for sure, but it's the remainder of our levy is for road and bridge. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, 200. I think it was. Well, I'm not going to speak because I think it was
269,000.
Yeah, I think that's
in that
right.
vicinity anyway.
Okay. And I don't know that I have that written down for 2021. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't bring it. I got it at home. But
Okay.
so we are sitting in a fairly good position.
Todd, is there anything you wanted to add before?
No, I don't think so. It's just kind of, to me, up to the board to see which direction they want to go and Yeah, I think what you presented and what you've done is fantastic, really.
Thank you.
Bill, when you measured that tree, you're measuring it at 4 feet height?
I measured it at 2 feet. Is it 4?
It's, yeah, it's breast high measurement,
Oh, I'll have to go back out. It's
breast high
pretty
diameter, so it'd be 4 feet, it's 4 feet is typically
Okay.
what they measure.
All right, I'll double
So
check
we're
again.
probably within that we're probably within that 6 inches anyway.
Yeah, I'll make sure though, because that's, Jason says it gets really sticky if you're cutting something that's 6 inches or bigger. So I'll double check, and we gotta make sure that we get just a notice out there saying that we're doing trimming, brush trimming and tree trimming around the
Right.
township this winter.
And there
And
is
I'll,
a substance you can put on stumps that, excuse me. There's a substance you can put on trunks so they'll never regrow.
yeah, I know. That'd be great.
I know Elk River Utilities uses it when they cut a tree under a power line. They spray it on and it'll never grow back.
Okay. Well, that's something we'll get at right away then. If it's less than 6 inches, it's like I say, it's right along the edge of the road. The snow's not deep. It's going to be pretty easy to get in there and work on it.
Okay.
So before, I just kind of like to finalize kind of what was presented there. Now that everybody's had a little time to maybe think about what was discussed, is everyone, again, the graveling plans may change a little bit depending on my meeting with the grader operator and the contractor. But for all practical purposes, is everyone okay with the graveling plan? I'll show it
If
on
you
the
just
screen.
want,
Yeah, I don't know that we have to
without a
necessarily
motion,
vote
I
on
think
it.
it's a fantastic move going forward with actually having all the information and more than we've ever had.
Okay. So should I just, can we just get a quick vote on it there, Gene? Just like, is everybody okay? Aye, no. Can we do that, please?
I would accept a motion then to have a motion to approve the gravel in basis going forward.
I'd move a motion to move forward with the graveling plans with the potential of slight modifications for 2021.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Motion's been made by Mr. Wilhelm, excuse me, by Mr. Whitcomb, second by Mr. Duden.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote by roll call. Mr. Duden.
All right.
Mr. Hiller is not here. Mr. Stokel votes aye. Mr. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Mr. Wilhelm. Motion is carried 4-0.
Okay, so now looking
And
at I'm sorry. Now we need to look at the dust
Yep.
control. Are you ready to move on to the dust control?
any questions about dust control?
So here's the map
I
up
think
on the
we're
screen.
within Yep.
Are we wanting to apply dust control everywhere, including the I'm thinking 50th, we could do the whole thing. It's my question is, what are you guys thinking about, this whole mile long stretch of 17 and then everything basically to the north? I'm going to zoom in there a little bit so you can see what it looks like.
And there are really small number of average daily travel, right?
To the east, 79, or I'm sorry, 59. To the north, it was 62. So 59 here on the east and 62 to the north, but when you combine those two, it gets up to 121. So that's why this really could use it here. It's just this section, there's no real, I mean, there's a benefit because we're not going to have to send the grader over there necessarily 10 times next year. You might only have to go over there 2 or 3 times, or that might be limited, maybe 4 times.
But you're saying the north part is 50 or 60 average
Yeah,
daily
because
travel?
yeah, because people come off of 95, they come down and then they head west over into the Greenbush area. So there's more people that come from 95 than actually come across.
Okay.
It's almost identical, 62, 70, 59. It's so close. So, but like I said, I'm proposing taking it, a couple 100 feet north on 107th and a couple 100 feet east of 107th, just because, like I say, this guy that's on the corner, he gets everything. He gets 120 plus cars past his house every day. So I'm at least thinking about going that far. And his house was figured in the calculations for that matrix.
Okay, can you back up to the whole township again?
Sure. So we're adding this area was done last year as a test site. This area was done last year, and this area. So we're talking about adding Brickton Road had a count of ADT of 80, which really surprised me. And that scored 25. So of all of them, that scored the highest, other than that west half of 17th. So so we're talking 35th, Brickton up to around the corner to the antique dealer. Sunnyside Acres we did last year, 19th Street over by Silver Lake, and then the whole length of 50th. There's like 8 or 9 homes on there.
And with all those, we're considering what kind of expense? I'm sorry.
About 13,000.
So we're very
But
clear on what we're voting on.
yep, and the 13,000 again, like I showed you back on the 2020 actuals. We have to grade it less. We have to apply gravel less. So it's almost, like I say, it's a wash when we start getting up into those higher traffic totals. And that's why I was a little hesitant on the southwest, because the numbers don't really support it, other than the fact, again, we're gonna have to grade it all the time.
And I think we'd have happier residents.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we just got to remember, if we're going to use that matrix, I want to document why we're doing this, because this little orange section, it really doesn't meet the criteria that we have set up in the matrix. But we could explain that, it gets an awful lot of traffic, and I mean, there's things it could use it for sure, because it gets complained about an awful lot. So we don't have to approve all the areas. We can approve just the areas that are in yellow, and this one up here, and then leave these 2 orange ones out, or we can do the whole thing.
Well, are you willing to make a motion? Or is anybody?
I'll let you guys. I've pulled the info together. You can decide. We can, like I say, we can pull pieces out if you want. Everything in yellow here, that's highlighted in yellow, are the ones that we could pull out. We could leave this one in. I mean, I'd
I
be
move
okay
that
with
we,
leaving this one in.
Gene,
It's
I move
2,000.
that we put dust control on all the marked roads, including the one on 107th.
Okay,
Is
I'd
it-
second that.
That was
And
Bill?
150 and 17th, you said 107th and 17th, the whole thing.
Yes.
I would second the motion that we dust control everything that's shown on this map in yellow and circled in orange. I would second that.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. Mr. Duden,
Aye.
Mr. Stokel's aye, Mr. Whitcomb,
Aye.
Mr. Wilhelm. Motion is carried. Do we want to proceed with the crack filling and chip sealing?
Yep, that would be the next motion that someone could make.
I move the
combine
motion to
those?
approve the chip sealing for the recommended roads.
Are you? Is that for crack sealing and chip sealing?
Yes.
Excuse me, crack filling and chip sealing? Mr. Duden has made a motion to approve the crack filling and chip sealing. Is there a second?
I would second that.
That's Mr. Whitcomb. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. Mr. Duden,
Aye.
Mr. Stokel's aye, Mr. Whitcomb,
Aye.
Mr. Wilhelm. Motion is carried. And do we want the last one to be the overlay? Any questions, concerns?
I would move the motion to do the 2-inch overlay.
Mr. Duden has made a motion to do the 2-inch overlay. Is that just a question before we move on? That 60,000, is that
That at
pretty
this
much
point is,
within?
Todd and I discussed that today. I've got 2 bids. They both people that I sent them out to got the exact same information, but we feel that we need to actually send the specs out so that we're sure that everybody's bidding on the same thing. But the lowest at this point is 60,000, which we would more than likely go with if they were the bidder. But we will put it out for a more official bid at a later date. Is that correct, Todd?
Correct.
So that would be considered to be within reason of what the
Yes.
actual is going to be.
Yes.
That's correct, yes.
And that would include engineering.
That did not include engineering. It's going to be very minimal. Todd, you can touch on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that much. Maybe we're looking at, I don't know, 2% or something. What is that?
3,000.
Yeah.
Well,
Just to make
it's more 3,000.
No,
Yeah, I don't
more
know,
than
maybe
2,000.
5, 6, I don't know, something like that. I haven't really thought about it yet.
We have to
Okay.
get the specs pulled together. Yeah.
Okay, motion has been made by Mr. Duden. Is there a second to the motion to do the overlay on Brickton Road? I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion to do the overlay on Brickton Road?
Is that just the portion that's right by you know, the AZ restaurant all the way up to the middle there?
Basically where it ties into County Road 29 at the south end by the Jehovah's Witness Church, all the way up to where the pavement ends, just north of A to Z. It's about maybe 150 feet north of their north driveway, like 2,640 feet.
Okay.
John, if you were to drive it, you would notice, especially when there's no ice on the road, you would notice that there's a whole bunch of little like puckers about, looks like somebody's taking a 5-gallon pail and just sucking the tar out of or asphalt off the road.
I drive my haying equipment on that road. I know how bad it is.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Any further questions? If there are no further questions, we'll proceed to vote. Mr. Duden,
Aye.
Mr. Stokel's aye. Mr. Whitcomb,
Aye.
Mr. Wilhelm.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. We will move on to the review and approve brush and tree trimming. I believe that just has to be put in the hands of our lawyer to get how we have to address informing the people. I don't know that we need board action.
Yeah, I think we were just looking for making sure that everybody's on the same page, that we're going to at least send out some sort of a notification, not a mailing, just put it on the web or something like that, or I'll post it out on the front board that we're going to be doing miscellaneous, various brushing and tree trimming throughout the township this winter. It fits in with what we have on our policy for tree trimming and brushing. We're going to do it in the winter when the ground's frozen, or early spring.
Very good. Is there any further, well, there can't be any further business come before the meeting, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn unless somebody thinks that we neglected part of the agenda.
Maybe that last item, we'll move that to the next meeting on the January 19th.
Yes. Hopefully
Okay.
we'll have a resolution from Jason for our consideration at the 19th meeting.
So I would, I'll just move a motion to move this last agenda item of reviewing and approving of brush and tree trimming quotes, and if necessary, a resolution authorizing a contract with an interested officer. We'll table that until January 19th.
And I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. Mr. Duden,
Aye.
Mr. Sokol's aye. Mr. Whitcomb,
I think that needed to be continue, not table. I don't know if there's a difference or not.
well, it's still basically it's a tabling the motion.
Okay,
It's
all right.
vote.
Aye.
And Mr. Wilhelm,
Aye.
motion is carried. We will table the brush tree trimming quotes and resolution to the January 19th meeting. There should now be no further business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move a motion to adjourn. Bill Whitcomb.
Mr. Whitcomb made a motion to adjourn. Second.
Are you sure, Bill? You're not done yet?
Oh,
I
smart.
would second the
Thomas.
motion.
Keep it up.
Was that a second, Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Duden has seconded the motion. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, signify by saying aye. No, well, Mr. Duden,
Aye.
Mr. Stokel's aye. Mr. Whitcomb,
Aye.
And Mr. Wilhelm.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.